Hi everyone. In this video I have two guests.
Herkese, merhaba.
Herkese, merhaba.
Today we will be discussing about the book To Live by Yu Hua from a Chinese author. And since there aren't a lot of Chinese books or authors in Turkey, so I have chosen this book, and I'm really lucky because I have a chance to argue this book with my Chinese friend Meng Lei and Zhilan. And we are working in the same workplace. And maybe it's better to make a short summary of the book at first.
Yes.
And after that, we can start to discuss about the things happened in the book. So, in the book, we have a man called Fugui. And at first, he is really rich and his family is really rich. And they have a lot of lands and good homes and a good lifestyle. But after that, Fugui has some gambling problems and he doesn't care about his family. So in a gambling, he loses everything he has. After that, the collapse of the family starts. And we start to read the process of the Fugui and his family. And the bad things happen to him and his family. So in the book, we start to read this really fast. And as for me, it was really a sad book. What do you think? Do you think it's really sad or not?
Yes, it's sad, and after reading this one, you're gonna feel very high depression inside your heart, because it talks about people suffering all the time and all the hardships, difficulties, and deaths in the book. I mean, all in all, it makes me feel very sad after the rough reading this one.
And also in some parts, for example, I burst into tears. So was the same for you or?
Actually, I'm not going to cry for that, but almost. For Fu Gui, he was previously from a very rich family. Then, as you said, he went into some gambling troubles and lost all his fortune inherited from his ancestors. So, yeah. Actually, it was very hard, I think, for him to suffer from all these things.
But I think he was really thankful for everything he had because he had a lot of hard times after getting poor. And he just faced really good with these problems. Also, I want to speak about the Turkish edition of the book because I like the cover design of the book. And as for me, these lines all symbolizes the members of the family. Because in the book we read the story of two generations. And there are 6 lines here and each of them symbolizes one of the characters. I don't know which one is which person, but it's really a good thought thinking of the book. So after I have read the book, I had some questions about the family and the main character. So I want to ask something about this. First of all, I want to learn about your opinions for the main character, Fugui.
Yes.
What do you think? Because I think he is really strong and he really faced really good with a lot of trouble. Even if he had a lot of hard times after seeing a lot of deaths. But he was really powerful and he had a high passion to live, as in the title of the book.
Yes, actually, after reading the book, I found that even though the protagonist was faced with all the hardships, difficulties, and disturbance of his life caused by all the situations faced with him, he still holds optimistic life attitude towards the life. So he survived the longest in the book. I mean, and I think that's also the main meaning of the book, to encourage people who are suffering, no matter what difficulties they are faced with, you should continue to, keep up living.
But I think, of course, you should keep living and you need to be positive about everything, even if you had very bad things. But I think his family was really understanding whatever happens. Because they were always understanding, they were always supporting Fugui. Even if, for example, he hit his child or he just kicked his wife or he behaved in a bad way for his daughter sometimes. But even in these conditions, the family was really understanding for everything. So what do you think about these behaviors of the family?
Fu Gui, his family members always trust him and also forgive him, even he did a lot of bad things in the beginning, I mean the gambling problems, which shows, I think, the tolerance of his family members to him, and also maybe sometimes there will be some helplessness because Fu Gui is the man who is in his prime age. Yeah. Some kind of things.
So what do you think for these behaviors of the family? The same or do you have anything different?
I think in Asian China, because it's a male-dominated society, so the husband is the financially a support of the family. So all the other family members has to kind of obey the father or the man. So I think that's one of the main reasons why the other family members shows their obedience or conformity to him.
So because the father is like the master of the family.
That's kind of male-dominated society, the feature of that kind of society.
Because I think it must be really hard for male or father to take all of the family in the bad things. So I understand. And also, I want to check the name. There was a servant works for the family, Shang'un. And this servant was really loyal to the family. Even after he lose his job, he behaved good to Fu Gui. For example, Fu Gui was in a good clothes when he served this family, but after he lose all the money and all the lands, and he started to wear really bad clothes, or sometimes they are teared. But he didn't care about this. He just showed his loyalty to Fu Gui. What's the reason for this? Is there anything for those times? Do you know?
In my opinion, I think because in Asian China, the servant is quite loyal to the family you are working for. I think one of the reasons that is the kind of tradition that is rooted in the servants. You should be obedient to the family you are working for. And also I think the other reasons that because the servant Chang'en has worked in the family for 2 generations and he doesn't have any other relatives in the world. Also, he doesn't have any place to go after leaving this place. So maybe the good memories for his past. That's why he is also loyal to Fu Gui, even though Fu Gui got bankrupt.
So the family is like his family, or second family.
Because they live together and they work, they grow up together, I think.
Because I think of these times, and if a servant sees the master or the employer is powerless anymore, probably the servant will leave that family or that employer.
I think that's not the same as what we have now. It's not like the employer and the employee. Because that time the servant is totally dependent on the landlord. So I think that's why he has to be loyal to your master. Because you are totally dependent on you can call it the salary or the food he gives to you to keep your living.
So he doesn't have anything to do if he doesn't serve these people. Like something, if I understand right.
If he's lucky, he can find another job working for another family. But at that time, he didn't make it because, as the novel showed us, he became a beggar in the later stage. So I think he misses the good parts for the Xu family he worked for.
And also in the book, we see some parts, and these parts telling us about the war process of the country.
Yes.
And during this war, we see that always the ordinary people has the effects or the bad effects of the war. So I just think this is always the same. If a war occurs in a country, always the ordinary people has the bad effects or bad sides of the war.
Yes, because let's say the recently the Ukraine, Russia, they are having the war. And it's the normal people, the ordinary people, they suffer the most, from the videos we watched. They don't have place to live, they don't have food to eat. I think it's the bad thing for all the vulnerables. They suffer the most in the war, in any war actually.
And also, maybe this will be a bit different than this. It will be about the title of the book. Because the title of the book is To Live.
Yes.
But there are a lot of tragic deaths in the book. And during the book, we see these kind of deaths every time. What do you think? Because it's just the opposite of To Live.
Yes.
Thinking of that.
For his family members, as described in this novel, his family members died one after another. But he's still alive and trying to live and fight against his fate. I think this shows a kind of courage from Fu Gui, and also it's a kind of to tell people that we need to cherish the current moment and need to cherish the life. So to live is the best fortune and also takes courage for the ordinary people.
Yes. But it's really hard to live. Even in these days, it's really hard to find a passion that you can run after. But Fugui is, I think, living for his family. So maybe this is the courage that he has inside. So also at first we see that Fugui has a really serious gambling problem. And after that, the person he played with Longar. And after that, we see the destiny of Longar is really bad. I think Fugui is afraid of him at some part. What do you think? Is he afraid or not?
Maybe on one hand, he's afraid of Longar, but when he saw the execution, for Longar, I think he felt quite relieved for some part, because if Fu Gui he didn't lose his fortune, maybe he will be the one who got execution.
Yes, so I think we read a similar thing with another person or another event in the book. So if another person has these bad things, they have a chance to live. So maybe this can show another perspective for the name of the book. So also we see the family has really strong bonds between themselves and they care about each other. I think especially for the daughter of Fugi, she is always happy or she is looking happy and she has a positive life attitude all the time. So what do you think for this? Because it must be really hard, especially if we consider this kind of problems for those times.
Yeah, because in the beginning, when the daughter was named Fengsha, when she was young, like 4 or 5 years old, she experienced the great changes for his family. She was born in a rich family, and I think she enjoyed all the delicacies and the silk clothes when she was young. But because a day overnight, the family lost everything to the Longar, the gambler. So her living standards has been decreased from the decent one to a poor one. As a child, she didn't show any unhappiness at least she didn't cry for the food or the fancy clothes she used to have, but she just accepts what she was offered. Because in my mind, as a normal kid, if you are confronted with this kind of situation, the normal reaction could be, at least crying for the good things you used to have, but she didn't. And also, later, when she was grown up, she sold to another household, look after the seniors, and she also accepts this arrangement from her family and didn't defy their decisions. So I think totally she is the optimistic about the life itself.
But when you speak like this, I think this can be a good gen comes from her mother. Because as we see and read in the book, her mother was coming from a really rich family.
Yes.
And even she is really rich, and at some point she was taken by her father to the family home again.
Yes.
But she comes back to Fukui. Also, they were really poor and they had really low life standards when she came back. But she didn't say anything bad or she didn't complain about anything, and she was always accepting for anything happens. And she always standed for the family and she tried to be strong. So I think she just inherited this from her mother. So this can be also a reason for this thing.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the reason for the daughter to behave like that. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes, and also we see in the book that Fugui's wife is also loyal to her husband, no matter what happens, what bad things happen. Of course, I think we have spoken a bit about this thing at first, but I wonder your opinions about this, maybe in a wide perspective. What do you think about this?
Yeah, from my perspective, just as the previous question for the servant's loyalty. I think on the one hand, for Fugui's wife, Jia Zhen, this is a kind of habit formed during a long period of time. And she gets accustomed to this kind of loyalty. But on the other hand, I think she loved Fugui and her family. So that's why she behaved like this kind of loyal to her family and especially to Fugui.
Yes. So according to your opinion, this can be also a habit for his wife. But probably she's really obedient with her father's wants. Because when her father comes home to take her back, she didn't say anything. She just took on the baggage and left. Maybe she didn't want to go to her father's home, but she didn't say anything. So maybe it's because, as you said earlier, they just think the man as the master of the family and they don't say anything.
They follow their instruction.
Yes. And this will be my last question. As you know, at first, the folklorist comes to village to learn some stories from the villagers and learn some of the songs or the local stories or, I don't know, the myths, something. So he meets with Fugui in a village and he was trying to work with his cow. And the cow is named as Fugui. I read something in the book and there were some details about this, of course, but I want to learn your thoughts for this. Why he named the cow with the same name of himself? What do you think?
I think it shows a kind of understanding or reconciliation with the reality. I mean, although life is hard, but we still need to carry on and continue. I think it's a kind of maybe shows the friendship between Fugui and his feet. Yeah.
So it's like the reflection of his life with this animal. So what do you think for this?
Yeah, I think because as the novel explains, the ox, when he bought the ox was also in his old age, we can say. So maybe he thinks they have the similar fates or experiences to some extent. So maybe it's better to name the ox the same name as his own. And also, I would like to say the Fugui, when the ox was working in the field, he also came up with the other names of the family members. I think that's also his reminder or memory to commemorate his own family members to came up with those names too. Because I think he deep heart he really misses those past members.
But I think also in the book it was written, the author says with the folklorist narration, says that he has really good connection with his past and he really likes to speak about his past. Because speaking about his past, he feels like he is still living. And maybe this is the important thing for him, for Fugui.
Yeah, I think because in the novel it mentions when the folklist, he tries to get the stories from other villagers. Some wouldn't, they were not to share their past experiences with him. But when he met Fugui, Fugui is willing to talk about what past had happened to him. Mm-hmm. So I think Fugui wants to recall the past memories, whether it's good or bad. I think it's to recall the past and to make him to cherish the life he's having now, to better to moving forward.
I think remembering the past and also sharing this past with others just shows the meaning of his life, probably.
Yeah, that is also reasonable.
Okay, and lastly, I recommend this book if you like some dramatic scenes or if you like some history. I think you will like this book. And also, if you think you can handle a lot of dramatic or tragic things going on, I think you will like it. So I want to ask, why do you recommend this book to people, to readers?
Just like you said, although it is a tragedy, but you can still find some goodness, good aspects from a lot of sufferings. So it will encourage people to live and to find courage from a lot of bad things. So I think it is worth reading for everybody.
What do you think?
You can see the simple narrative of the Chinese history, starting from 1920s to 1970s or 80s. A description of normal households in Chinese society. I think the meaning of this book is to encourage people, when you think you are in a difficult situation, just think of the character, the main character in this book, how he overcomes all the hardships. Then I think it gives you the courage to move forward. That's why I recommend the book.
Thanks. And do you have anything to add?
I just came up with me one thing, because what it describes in the novel is the Asian China that is almost half a century ago or 80 years ago. But what is China looks like now is very modern, and you can see an advanced country that welcomes all of the audience to visit, and you can explore what is China looks like now. If you wanted to have a sharp contrast between what is past and what's now, welcome to China.
Thank you. And firstly, I want to thank you for coming here and joining and saying your opinions about the book.
Thank you for having us.
For invitation.
And I also want to thank all the viewers and also our special guest as cameraman, Xia. And also I wonder your opinions about the book, so you can share that with us in the comment section. And thanks for everything. See you in next videos. Bye.
谢谢大家。